Welcome, everyone, to Davos Fingers coverage of House of the Dragon. This is episode 131, We Light the Way. I am Scatty, and with me, as always, is my buddy Matt.
Hello, meus amigos. There's a little Portuguese for you. We're happy to be back, continuing our coverage of HBO's House of the Dragon. We're doing this on a weekly basis, of course, based on George R.R. Martin's book, Fire and Blood. Today, we're talking episode 5 of House of the Dragon, We Light the Way.
Yeah, if you've been paying attention, we've been releasing these episodes once a week. That's every Friday morning. We'll send them out to you, hopefully give you enough time to digest what happened in the previous week's episode, as well as get you prepped for the upcoming week's episode, just like 2 days away. We are keeping it spoiler free, but if you've read the book or you just don't care about spoilers, we do have a spoilerific segment after the main cast called Dragons After Dark, where we'll talk with book spoilers and predict what we think might happen in that upcoming episode.
Yep. So you can check out these episodes on your favorite podcast provider or on YouTube. And if you want to chat, send us a raven. We'd love to hear from you. You can find us at Davos Fingers on Twitter, Facebook. Our Gmail is wearedavosfingers@gmail.com. And you can check out, our YouTube channel. And also we're at patreon.com/davosfingers, which is frozen for the moment. But we love to hear from you. We heard from Caitlin this week, right?
We did.
An old friend. We do remember going
companion.
to breakfast with you and Richard and your friends when you're in town. So it's always warmed my heart to see that. It's always fantastic.
Absolutely. Heard from a few people as the House of the Dragon coverage has picked up. It's been great to hear from everyone. And also, if some of these takes sound familiar, we have covered a lot of this material. House of the Dragon is hewing pretty closely to Fire and Blood in most cases. And if you're interested in hearing that coverage of Fire and Blood, you can check out our Davos Fingers episodes 82 and 83 that will line up with most of the content in this episode, not perfectly, but pretty close. And as timelines are differing a little bit in the show than they did in the book. But so if you listen to that, beware, you will get some spoilers for the show if you listen to those episodes. But if you're interested in the Fire and Blood coverage, give it a listen.
Absolutely. Oh, Scat, did you see my movies hat?
I love your movies hat. Yeah.
In celebration of Clerks 3.
Clerks 3, and I did see that Kevbo is coming.
Yeah, they're
to FanX here in Salt Lake, and
they're probably here
tomorrow.
This weekend. It kicked off today, I think.
Yeah,
I don't know when their stuff is, but
bad timing for me. I'm not going to be able to go. But
word. Thanks, Blood Rider Lindsay. She pointed me to this hat, and it is now mine. It sits upon my scalp.
Let's on you, buddy.
Let's dive into this thing, huh?
Let's do it.
So
we start with a hunting accident. Apparently.
Whoops, an accident.
Oopsies.
Fire and Blood says Lady Rhea Royce fell from her horse whilst hawking and cracked her skull upon a stone. This, of course, being Daemon Targaryen's wife of House Royce, who he didn't have a very high opinion of.
No, he calls her the bronze bitch. That's how they, on the show, that's pretty much how you know of her, I think. Seems like they use that phrase more than her actual name. And also printed in the translation from Valyrian, as that's usually when you would say it. But and the most interesting thing about this scene to me is she was privy to some information about Daemon's existence in King's Landing. She had an informant giving her information.
Right.
She drops a line about the sheep being prettier. That's something that Daemon said in a council meeting, to the alarm of several of the council members. And also she kind of makes a impotence sex joke as well at his expense before he expires her with a rock.
Mm-hmm.
So she's connected. She's sharp. She was getting information about Daemon from King's Landing from somebody.
Right. I remember in episode 1, Otto Hightower was writing letters and we didn't know to whom.
Yeah.
I wondered if maybe him.
It feels like Otto's the obvious culprit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But Daemon has no shortage of enemies on the council. So it could have been Melos. It could have been any number of people. In the book, Daemon is in the Stepstones during when Rhea dies, says struggling to defend his meager kingdom against the men of the Triarchy. So it would be difficult for him to have been the killer, but that doesn't mean he couldn't have sent somebody to do the deed for him. Maybe sent an assassin. I think the fact that they're bringing it up in the book seems very clear to me that she didn't have a hunting accident, that she died.
It always felt suspicious. And, Daemon does have means of pretty quick travel via Caraxes.
That's true.
And reasonably secret, right? I mean, he can kind of slip away just himself and not alarm anyone and just kind of take care of it and come back pretty easily.
Sure. Yeah. The dragon's kind of big.
Yeah.
You have to keep him from being spotted. But
well, yes and no. It's like, I went for a flight. What do you care? You know?
Yeah.
I was patrolling or whatever.
Man, first of all, how great to see a character like that on screen.
Yeah.
A character who has really one line devoted to her in the book, and we get a good 3 or 4 minutes of her, and she was great.
She was great. The actress did a great job. She's a bit prickly, like she was even mean to the Gerald. We'll get his name later, but she's even kind of just not mean, but just kind of like, nah, I'll do it alone.
Yeah, actually, my note was she's kind of cold-ish to her cousin, not mean. So
yeah, but you can see I can see Daemon just not having any patience for it and forming the opinion that he doesn't like her very quickly.
Right. And if things didn't go well on their wedding night, I can see her being the type to be like,
totally. She's over it too. She won't suffer him either. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And mutual. That pisses him off even more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe get to know the people you're going to marry.
Maybe. Yeah, I wonder if things might have been okay, but then he had the mishap on his wedding night and everything just spiraled from there.
Yeah. I don't have much more on that scene. Do you?
What was he doing with the horse? I didn't quite understand the first time watching it. He kind of just was able to get right up in the horse's face. I don't know horses well enough to know how to spook them to that degree.
I'm personally convinced that he meant harm to Rhea, but
sure.
The way it's filmed leaves enough doubt that it's like, oh, well, the horse spooked, and maybe he was even trying to bring it down, but he just kind of, seems like he just kind of helped push it over, right? And horses are heavy. That's not somewhere I'd want to be, like underneath, if it decides to come back down, right? But yeah, it's a little weirdly shot. Yeah,
it's definitely weirdly shot, and he couldn't have had the idea of like, I'm going to push the horse just so that she will fall and break her back and be paralyzed. You think he just went into this thinking, kind of like how he went into the Stepstones single-handedly, of just, I'll get there and I'll figure it out when I get there kind of thing.
Seems like it. Yeah. Like he just kind of, he puts himself in the situation and then makes the best of it and makes
the best choice.
Of it. Like had he not had a chance and she stopped 50 yards shorter and just drawn her bow immediately, maybe he'd have done something else, right? And just threatened her or something else, right? But the situation presented itself and he took it.
Right. Another scene where Matt Smith doesn't say a word, completely lineless, and pulls it off. True? Just like he does. He doesn't speak in this episode until Gerald approaches him at dinner.
That's crazy.
Isn't that nuts? That's his first line.
That's crazy. I would have bet a lot of money against that he said something to her in this scene.
Not a word. He just kind of looks at her.
And she just kind of puts it together like a second too late.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Just like, what are you going to do? Like kill the prince or what? Oh,
crap. Oh, crap.
You're going to take me down and get my stuff. Okay.
Right. And then final comment, man, her armor looked great. They
Yeah, it
always
does.
talk about the Royces descended from the first men and the runes that were present on runestone. And so you saw that on her armor and actually on Gerald's armor too,
Mhm.
imprinted. Oh, I just love those kind of details. It's
And it's
fantastic.
supposed to protect them,
Mm-hmm.
but
Good
plenty of
work. Good
plenty of
work.
Royces die wearing the armor. So
Nice work, runes.
yeah, come on, runes, you got one job,
You got a
one
warranty on those
job.
runes.
Oh man, I curved the U just the wrong way, and I screwed up the whole protection.
uh, so next we get a just a quick scene of
Yeah,
the king and his party traveling to Driftmark, and the king's not
yeah.
feeling too well.
We kind of have an interesting. It's a very short scene on the boat, and then it jumps to Allison with Otto, and then back to Driftmark. So I kind of combined these two and skipped the Otto one, and we can cover it maybe
Right, let's
after.
do it. Yep.
So yeah, I mean this this ship scene, strong tissue.
Mhm.
You know, his new hand is there almost just to kind of like wipe his bum. Just like
He's
at every opportunity, he's just kind of there, just like, hey, here you go. Here you go. You need this. Here you go.
we need an office moment in every single one of these House of the Dragon episodes, right?
Oh,
Today's is when Dwight leaves Dunder Mifflin and gets the job at Staples for like an episode. And he goes to help the lady as a customer service person. And he's like, I will literally be standing right here if you need anything at all. And he just stands next to the customer and just waits. And that's Laris Strong's job as hand. Like you said, I will literally be standing right here if you need anything at all.
yeah.
He does a good job of it.
Yeah, he does. That's really most of what I took from that boat scene is just that Viserys is sick and not doing well, and that you know Lionel is just going to be there just at every moment to just support and help and whisper.
Yep.
Yeah. So they arrive at high tide. So point of book order. High tide is the newer castle, right? So Corlys, with all his wealth, builds a newer castle. They had Driftmark, and they thought it was old and drab and all this money to burn, so they built High Tide on the other end of the island.
As you do.
This one still kind of looks old and damp to me, but it's a cool depiction. I really like the causeway.
Yeah.
That would be underwater if it were higher tide. It's
Mm-hmm.
pretty cool.
Yeah, and the way that the castle itself is uh, decorated, right? It's like a great big trophy cabinet. It's a total Corliss flex, making the king come there and then walk through all of his triumphs and everything.
Yes, it's a huge flex, and we'll get into some of the what that means and how Rhaenys feels about it too, because for most of the series, I sensed that they were very, they were in lockstep about most things.
Mm-hmm.
And it does not feel that way this episode to me.
There are some key things there. Yep, for sure.
You remember the I think it was in episode 1 where Otto, I think it is, leans over to Viserys and he's like, "You should take their tongues for that," because somebody just makes like they're actually making a comment about Rhaenys and being the queen who never was. And
Right.
Viserys is like, nah, it's just let them talk. It's no big deal.
Yeah, at the joust, right?
Yeah, if you take tongues for people doing shit like that, you don't get stood up when you arrive at their castle. Like it's I know it seems like a silly link to make, but like if you let things slide like that, they're willing to disrespect you in bigger ways. And
Right.
This is happening.
And you see it later in the episode too. We'll see other examples of this with other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I feel the same way. Yep. Viserys, you kind of did this to yourself, bud.
Yeah. His lack of desire to face conflict head on it's starting to really bite him.
Right.
If it wasn't already. I mean, I think it was. But
right. And on the other hand, I think to myself, is it really that big a deal? But the problem is that if you get, as a king, if you get lax with some things, they start to needle and take advantage of it and force you to be lax with other things. And
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a difficult line to toe.
Yes. Anything else for High Tide?
I don't think so.
So now we get Allison saying goodbye to Otto.
Yeah.
Otto saying, fuck you a little bit.
A little bit.
This is kind of on you, but also more importantly, telling her, be careful, right? Like, this is happening. This is what I've been trying to prepare you for, and you better get ready because this isn't going away. This is going to be a war.
Right. And we see Otto moving the goalpost a little bit. When Daemon was in line for the throne, he was all about Rhaenyra. He was the one who suggested it back in episode 1. But then he gets a grandbaby, and all of a sudden, you got to do this. What do you think? Do you think war will follow? Do you really think it's going to be, is it as dire as he says? And I realize I'm being coy with that question for those that have read Fire and Blood. But
yeah, so hard to answer that question without spoiling too much, I think. But I think what he sees and what Rhaenys sees to a degree, and what a lot of people, what we saw in the streets
Rhaenys definitely
with
sees
the play, with the play in the last episode, is that there is a huge contingent of the realm that does not want a female ruler.
Right.
And they're going to latch on to any option they have that isn't a female ruler. And lo and behold, there's one presented to them that's getting older every day that they can latch on to. And the only way Otto's kind of he's a hammer. Everything's a nail to him a little bit, right? Maybe, but he sees the only option to remove Alicent's children. That's the only option that he sees for Rhaenyra to quell all these.
And he's not wrong. Yeah.
I mean, again, not to spoil. I don't know if he's wrong, but I think there are people that feel differently. He's telling her that more people feel this way. And
right.
I think the play we saw kind of indicates that's, at least in the populace, that's maybe true. And we saw in Council 101 that they prefer men. And
right.
Those of us that know the history know that they always choose the men. And so, he's not an idiot for thinking it, right? I don't think he's,
and for wanting to protect his family. And
yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, it's a tender moment. He's like, you need to protect your children, right? And
then we get what we've wanted for 4 episodes, Scad. A father hugging his daughter.
Yeah.
I loved that part when they just hugged each other. I was just like, yes, finally, you love her.
It was almost like a blunt instrument of reinforcement, though, for his message still. It's like, I'm hugging you only to reinforce this message.
Really?
You know what I mean? I don't know. It's hard to think of anything Otto's doing as sweet or real.
I get it. It came across to me as a moment of just like pure instinct of just wanting to hug his daughter. And then it was almost like, no, I'm on a high tower. Okay.
I don't do that.
Bye. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But you know me. I'm always a glass half full guy with this crap.
You want those nice family moments.
I do. Yeah. I do.
But I think we need to keep in mind, that what Alicent comes into this scene saying is, I believe Rhaenyra. I believe Viserys. I believe they want to do the right things here. And she's still, this, I don't want to say this warning rings hollow for her, but she's not where Otto is at this point. Right. And I don't think he convinces her here, but it does rattle around in her brain.
It sticks. Right? Seeds are planted. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yep. You choose not to see it, he says. And I would dare say that that's kind of almost a theme for this episode. We'll see that with other characters of them choosing not to see what's happening. But
you are no fool, but you choose not to see it. Yeah.
Yep.
Prepare Aegon to rule or pray for mercy from Rhaenyra. Which I messed that up a little bit. I combined 2 thoughts, but that was the sentiment.
Yep. Yep.
Note quick on wardrobe. I'm not a big wardrobe guy either, but looks very Targaryen in this scene.
Yeah.
The black dress with red piping everywhere.
And what I do like on these is we're seeing dresses repeat themselves. We're not like new dress every episode, which gives it kind of a lived-in feel. She wore this same dress. If it wasn't the last episode, it was the one before that.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
Cool. So we go then to Laris.
Laris Strong. Yeah.
Laris and Alicent.
In your favorite
locale.
scene, your favorite locale. Yeah, the Godswood. Gotta have our scene or two.
Squeeze everything into that one locale.
We need to do a count of how many Godswood scenes there are.
Oh man.
At least 2 per episode.
It's like they don't even know who the 7 are. Can we do something in a fucking sept, please? Can we do something in a sept, please?
I'm putting the count at 10. 5 episodes, 10 seasons in front of Godswood. Okay. I'm saying 2 per episode, at least.
Feels light. Feels light.
Feels light.
So my first thought on this whole conversation is the lemon tree and Bravos conversation that happens in the fandom all the time. For those that don't know, Dany dreams of her home, right? The house with the red door, and there being a lemon tree outside, and people have used that statement to say, oh well, lemon trees are indoor and they wouldn't grow in Bravos. And other people are saying, well, they've got a specific location there in Bravos that they tend to it very carefully and they can have it grow. And here we have Laris talking about this, an outsider among the natives, this flower that shouldn't be growing there.
Right.
Also, of course, clearly referencing Alicent.
Yeah, it's meant to be a metaphor, of course, for Alicent, but at the same time, you have to wonder if some of that fandom chit chat gets to some of the writers sometimes, and they throw little things like this in here just to wink at us.
Yeah, I feel like they do, and maybe I'm reading into it, but it's one of the things I love about their approach. I think they do nod their heads to us quite a bit. Mm-hmm. Look, we're fans like you. We're in this like you guys are.
Wink, wink, pals.
We see these relationships, right?
And Laris just is. We get our first look at how Laris, Littlefinger, Varys, and you know this is our first real scene of him saying or doing anything of real substance, and you're already starting to see that. I did wonder if she could be relied upon now that she is unwell, and like he stutters and everything. He's like so disarming, and
he's my new favorite. So
he's great.
I must have been in error. What a happiness! What a happiness! To have been wrong. You got to be shitting me, dude.
Oh my gosh!
I can't believe you're talking out of that side of your mouth. He does an amazing job. The actor, I don't know who he is. I gotta look him up, but I love him. The character just overtly leaving his messages, but in a way that is, I don't know, somehow evades trouble, right?
Yeah, because he knows that the message itself will affect Alicent to such a degree that she's like, she will forgive him his heavy-handed approach.
Yeah.
And it does affect her. She's just floored by this.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you about that. Is she just feeling betrayed by the dishonesty of Rhaenyra, who promised her on her dead mother that nothing happened on that night of fun? Or does this indicate deeper feelings for Rhaenyra? We talked about, the sexual tension that we saw in episode 1, especially.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I think, the first thing this information does to her is just cause doubt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Otto has placed doubt. Laris has now placed doubt.
Stoking
that flame. But I think she, we just saw the scene where she says, I believe Rhaenyra. I believed her. She says that
Mm-hmm.
to her dad. And it's kind of like she's been fooled. And so her pride is hurt. She literally sent her dad away, essentially. Like that's the result of her actions because she believed Rhaenyra. And so I think she's feeling, yeah, she's feeling very put off by Rhaenyra, right?
Right.
Betrayed, lied to. Um, yeah, I think you mentioned, she says, on my mother's. Like, wow, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think she feels betrayed.
I just felt like she took it so hard. She's taking it very hard. And I'm trying to put myself in her situation and, you know, feeling as she would. That
Yeah, I mean,
betrayed.
it's more than that too. It's if she's capable of this, maybe she is also capable of murdering my children, like my dad says. Maybe I
Mm-hmm.
don't know this person like I thought I did.
Right.
Not
And
just
that's probably the
betrayal, but
biggest
like,
one. Yeah.
yeah, a real reflection in her own judgment.
Right. Yeah.
Like with my, it's one of my worst qualities, right? I'll be angry at myself for an error in judgment I've made, right? Something I should have like, I knew if I didn't do this, I knew this was going to happen, and it happened. And I'm angry, and I'm getting jabbered at all times by my kids or whatever. And I take it out on them, right? Like I'm frustrated and I take it out on them, like, just stop asking me questions. Like I'm angry at myself.
Yeah.
She's angry at herself for trusting Rhaenyra if this is true. And so she
Mm-hmm.
immediately has to find out.
I like that. Yep. It is in her head now.
Yeah.
Good point about her dad. Like, I got my dad dismissed protecting
Mm-hmm.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I chose you over family. I mean, she
Right.
didn't, I don't know if she knew that was going to be she says she didn't. It would be the result of her actions, but it was the result of her actions. And um, yeah, it's a choice of choosing Rhaenyra over her family indirectly, and that hurts if she was lied to and made a fool
Yeah.
of.
She says to Laris, I'm the queen. I have no shortage of allies.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
posturing.
Well, I mean, she knows it is. She
right.
just said to Rhaenyra in the previous episode, I don't have any friends here.
Right. And now her dad's
Like,
gone.
almost that exact phrase.
Yeah.
Everyone sees me as queen. I don't have any friends here.
Our list of allies grows thin.
Mm-hmm.
Lord of the Rings. It's Lord of the Rings, right?
Indeed, it is. It's Elrond.
Mm-hmm. That's right. All right. Shall we go back to Driftmark?
Yeah. The tide is high, and so are Corlys's expectations here for Viserys' visit. Yeah, so Viserys kind of wanders through, like you said, seeing trophies and the decorations on a high tide and everything, and he wanders into the throne room for high tide, and there's Corlys just sitting there, just waiting,
like a king.
Pretty as you please.
Yeah.
Yep.
You approach me, King Viserys.
Mm-hmm. It feels totally wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about the last time you saw in some sort of king-based society, right? A monarchy where the king is approaching anybody else that's sitting higher than them.
And Corlys waits till like the last minute to stand up, walk over, and then he stands in front of him for a little bit.
Yeah.
Before kneeling finally.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. There's very much a power play going on. We got kind of that sense in the last episode that Corlys was, I didn't really go into it, but like holding the stepstones, maybe being a pirate a little bit himself and kind of flexing his control over the area.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's just flexing a little bit more, like I can rule if I want to.
Yep. And then Rhaenys comes in, happy as can be. We've never seen her this joyful. She's usually like somber and judgy. Yeah. I've talked about her facial expressions and how much I love them. She's always got kind of like that judgy smirk on her face, which I love about her.
She's just happy to be on camera again. Let's be honest.
Oh, for sure.
And I'm happy to have her back.
And I'm happy to have her. Yeah.
Yeah.
I gushed about her all week on Twitter, but
I've been away. I was at a wedding, so I've not been very engaged.
Oh, but my goodness. I have just been Eve Best super freak this week.
I will say, I'm kidding about the being on camera thing, but to some degree, it is. She's been removed from the action. She's been removed from the people that she knows and loves. They haven't been around um, for a long time. It's been years, probably, since she's really been at court with any regularity. And so she's probably just really kind of happy to see her cousin. Like they
Yeah,
were
I
they
think
they
so.
were relatively close. Yeah, I think they
Hmm.
were relatively close. So
Um,
it feels real to me.
cool. Good. I'm glad. I wondered if it was she came in kind of not her nicest finery. She was in pants. I assume she just came from a dragon ride. And
Mm.
I wonder if that kind of lifts her spirits and
No,
she came in kind of happy just getting off of her dragon. Um,
I
but
love that.
anyways, I love Eve best. She steals every scene she's in for me. I just find her enchanting, her whole character. The way she plays Rhaenys is just magical to me. I love it.
Yeah, I wonder how annoyed people are with the difference, the way I pronounce this. Rhaenys is my favorite character in Fire and Blood. One of my favorite characters in the whole series. Uh, and yes, Eve Best is great. Also, it's Rhaenys. To me, like the character is just really good, and they fleshed it out, I think, really well in this adaptation.
Yeah. Like when well, no, let's talk about the proposal.
Yeah.
We'll bring in some more of Rhaenys
Can,
stuff in it.
can I
But
take a quick detour to Lyanna first, because she was younger before. She was 12, right, when Rhaenyra was like 14 in this adaptation. In Fire and Blood, she's 5 years older than Rhaenyra. They've now got a new actress, right, swapped in
mm-hmm,
to
mm-hmm,
play Lyanna. They couldn't
mm-hmm.
use the little girl; it would have been bad.
Nope, she
Uh,
doesn't have the growth spurt that the kid who played Bran had. So
so they needed a middle girl. Without spoiling too much, I think we get a new actress again
next episode.
next episode.
Mm-hmm.
But this Lyanna felt older to me than Rhaenyra. Did
And
did you agree with that?
yeah, she seemed a little older. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it bothered me. But I got, like we said before, like if they're gonna fuck with the timeline, weird stuff is gonna happen. I guess if this is the worst thing that happened, then I guess it's not that bad.
Right.
But it just felt confusing
And
to
some teenagers seem like old.
me.
But she was like a teenager in a 1980s film old. Like
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
like
Are
Ferris
you
Bueller looks like
25?
27.
Yeah. Are you? All right, Dawson. Get
Uh-huh.
back on the crib.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cameron. Uh um but Fire and Blood makes mention of Rhaenyra and Lyanna being close as they grow. That's a bit of a
Mhm.
spoiler. But this kind of opens the door to that, of them going off together and her wanting to show her around and have breakfast with her. So little nod to that, I think.
Yeah, and I don't think it's too bad of a spoiler. I mean, in the later scene here, Rhaenys does say, they grew up together. She's referring
Mm-hmm.
to Leonor, not Lyanna, but same thing. They all
Assume
grew
they're
up together.
together. Yeah.
There's, the proximity was always there, and they're fond of each other. They're
Mm-hmm.
good little cousins. We don't get to see it much, but I think it's
Right.
believable. And Rhaenys says it. It's not that huge of a spoiler.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she also notices as soon as she tries to grab his hand, she notices he's missing
He's like,
fingers.
ugh.
So she left before that all went down, right? So she, I don't. They're not publicizing this information.
Yeah, definitely not.
She's a bit shocked.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this has taken this series of a turn for him.
Right. Yep. And then add in the coughing fits that he comes into, and yeah. And I think that just adds to her concern of
And then
he's going to die. What's going to happen?
she seems legitimately concerned. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last thing we get, kind of before they get into the actual proposal, is they mention that Rhea Royce had died in a hunting accident, but they lay it on pretty thick,
Mm-hmm.
right? That this was likely not an accident. But they see the gods are cruel. They kind of brush over it, and Viserys refuses to acknowledge the elephant in the room and just says, "Let's turn to happier pursuits."
Yeah.
Right? Like he doesn't want to deal with this.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's clear
his
that they're
thing.
making note that something was amiss.
Right.
Right.
Which is interesting because Corlys and Daemon have kind of been allies up to this point. Not kind of, they have been.
Yeah, they have.
Hmm.
Maybe he's doesn't see his usefulness anymore, or maybe I'm reading too much into it. Felt to me like they were alluding to something
Right.
beyond this.
Yeah. Yeah. But they've always been kind of gossipy too. Remember episode 1 where they're just sitting and just snarking with each other? I love that scene. It was my favorite scene of that whole first episode.
Gossipy, and I don't want to might get jumped on for this. I've always felt like Rhaenys and Corlys were kind of like better than everyone else, like
Mhm.
morally. I've always felt that way. This show has painted them differently, to challenge that. But I've always felt like they were kind of just morally better than everybody else in this part of the history, right? Like they just seem like better people. And so, partner or not, they don't approve of him murdering his wife, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And they
And they'll
will,
talk about it.
yeah, they will call the rose, and the spade a spade, and you know,
Yeah.
and they will make demands if we want to move to the proposal.
Oh my goodness. So Viserys says, I want Rhaenyra to marry Laenor. And Corlys is like, great idea. But let's talk about last names.
I have questions. Yeah, great idea. I have questions.
As he
For many
said
things.
in a previous episode, you sail directly into the storm, right? And
Mm-hmm.
here he goes.
Or you go around it, right?
Right.
So, yeah, so he wants to know what the plan is.
Yeah.
What
Are we going to
what
do like a hyphenated last name?
are they even going to rule? He asks first, right? Like, what is the plan for succession, really?
Mm-hmm.
And Viserys has to. I mean, it kind of throws water on the whole thing. He's like, before we say yes, am I agreeing to my son being king consort or just marrying, you know, a girl that's
A
not going to rule?
princess who's going to be a
Right,
forever princess. Yeah.
right. And Viserys, like he needs to be shouting to everyone and not just stating very clearly, which he does to Corlys, says she will be the heir.
Mm-hmm.
She will be queen. Whoever her firstborn child is will inherit the throne.
He or she.
He or
Yep.
she. He's very clear to Corlys.
Yeah.
He needs to do this for everyone, right? And he's done it some, but not boldly enough.
And people just don't want to hear it.
No,
It's the one
but
thing where he has a spine and he is willing to stick to his guns,
yeah,
but no one else agrees with it, which is the tragedy of it all. It's like the one
yeah.
thing that Viserys is sure about.
But they make a point. Yeah, but they make a point through the series, and Damon says it several times. You're the dragon.
Right.
You're the king. They will do what you tell them. Maybe then when he dies, they won't, I guess. But he needs to be more direct about this and more in their face and fierce about it.
Yeah.
Right.
And he does a good job of doing it here with Corlys.
He does. Yep.
Agreed. He can do it better in other places. And
so then they go to the last names. Are we going to get a Valerian king? Is that what's happening?
You're funny, says Viserys. No.
And then he has the balls to follow it up with, I'm only seeking clarity. Right? I didn't mean to suggest that that's what should happen. I'm only seeking clarity.
Right. How happy
Well
I am to be wrong.
Oh, what a fantastic performance.
And I like Viserys' answer. I think it's a good little answer. Yeah, be Velaryon. But the Targaryens are still the rulers of the realm. So at that point, Targaryen almost becomes more of a title than a last name, right? Is what he's suggesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting little side bet, if you want to think of it that way. Viserys is betting on the fact that for 200 years or 130 years or whatever, 130 years, I guess, the realm has been calling the king a Targaryen, right? The king's always been a Targaryen. It's a Targaryen. He's betting on that tradition carrying forward and people just kind of continuing on that.
Mm-hmm.
I think Corlys is banking. He agrees to this, but I think he's banking on the opposite. He's like, if the kid is named Valerion for 40 years and everyone refers to him or her as a Valerion for 40 years, they're not just going to switch it to Targaryen. It's like, hey, Matt, instead of calling me Scad, can you just change it to Scood just now,
or
just,
or William,
or whatever. You're not changing it. You've called me this for whatever, however long. And he's just kind of like, they'll just call him Valerion anyway, and Viserys will be dead, so who cares?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think Corlys is kind of banking on that part.
Right.
So he's like, okay, great.
Yep.
I'll take the minor win in
That's
hopes
fine.
that time's going to
That's
tell
fine.
on that one.
That's
right?
fine. Yep.
Crush groove.
Yep. But I like that Viserys in some ways is this progressive king. You know, that is something to like about him when he says
Sure.
he or she will do so bearing the name Targaryen. When he says, you're not proposing the Targaryen dynasty end just because she is a woman.
Yeah.
And that's where I come back to Eve Bess as Rhaenys. She gives like a little smirk, like a little Rhaenys smirk. Yeah. And I'm just like, she's like F&A Viserys. Yeah.
But also she doesn't believe it though.
For sure. And that's what the smirk is. It's like,
yeah.
Okay.
Whatever.
Oh, I love it.
You're all talk.
She's so good.
You're all talk. Yeah. So we come to learn. Do you have more on the proposal?
No.
We come to learn that Rhaenyra and Laenor are on a walk together.
Hamming it up. Yeah.
While this happens. Apparently it's not important that they're there for their own betrothal.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never betrothed anyone. I guess that's possibly true. So they're walking and they have a little discussion about a matter of taste.
Yeah. And it's such a modern day conversation.
It is.
Folded into this medieval-esque time.
And Laenor immediately kind of notes the change in her approach. He's kind of cold to her in the very opening moments of this scene. And she starts talking about her preference for duck over goose. And the tone of the conversation immediately changes. And all of a sudden, Laenor is an ally in the conversation instead of a combatant, right?
Right. It's even more gradual than that. He even starts off as kind of a little bit defensive, not like mean defensive, but like it's not for lack of trying, he says at one point when talking about the preference. And
other people like goose very much.
Right. But it kind of like, this is just the way that I am. And she's like, I know, and it's fine. Like, really, it's fine. Like, please do whatever you want.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how fine it is, Laenor. Like,
it's so fine. I also want to have my preferences.
I can't emphasize this enough. Like, listen to the words coming out of my mouth.
And for me,
this is
fine
great
for everybody. It's also, so they come to this understanding essentially that they'll do their duty and marry, that they will have an understanding between the two, that they can pursue their carnal desires as they please outside of marriage. A very I don't know, you could call that progressive approach as well. There's certainly all sorts of relationships that behave that way and work successfully. And it's also kind of a reverse of a passage in Fire and Blood. Do you remember the fish passage? It's actually not Rhaenyra or Laenor involved in that scene, but they're talking about Laenor. And I believe it's a maester says, I may not like fish, but when presented with it, I will eat it.
Right.
And this is so much better. What a better way to couch this whole conversation and make it progressive and fun.
Duck, duck, goose.
Duck, duck, goose. Or as they say in Minnesota, duck, duck, gray duck.
Oh, gosh.
Did you know that?
No, I didn't. Is that really a thing?
Our fans in Minnesota will confirm.
They probably
will.
In
Minnesota, they play duck, duck, gray duck.
Well, I love it. Let's do it.
It's insane.
That's great. Just a slight little book difference that I wanted to call out is that Laenor isn't this knightly warrior in Fire and Blood. He's actually knighted as a formality, basically, a fortnight before the wedding, just to say that he's a knight and that Rhaenyra is marrying a knight. But I like in Fire and Blood that they've made him a bit more dashing. He's a warrior and courageous and not afraid to get into the middle of things, as we saw in episode 3 or whatever it was. So slight difference, but I like it.
In fact, a leader, right? In the show. Yeah, he's a dragon rider in the books, but they don't ever go to any lengths to indicate that he has any martial skill at all.
Right.
He likes
That he
riding
participated
dragons,
in the war on the Stepstones. And yeah,
but as many people have pointed out, just because you love flying dragons doesn't mean you're a warrior. It doesn't mean you have a hunger for battle or even a
could
proclivity
just
for
mean
it or any
you're
skill in it.
a rich kid with a Porsche,
Right.
you like to take out and drive around.
The Porsche. I'm glad that's what you've reduced Leonor to. Remember, everyone, Matt said that, not me. No,
Book
I
Leonor, people. Book Leonor.
Leonor.
And I
I like it
stand
too.
by it.
I like it too. It's a good change. Without getting spoilery, let's see if it matters.
Yeah. I do like, just to close this out, that they're starting this, albeit forced relationship on good, solid, honest footing. And that to me is, no matter how this relationship turns, what happens to them, what they are forced to go through in the future. I like that they're starting out on the same page, getting it all out there, and kind of like a solid footing.
These are two people making the best of a situation neither of them want.
Mm-hmm.
But that they believe, I think they really do believe it will help the realm. Yep. It's probably the right match, even though neither of them want it. And so they're coming to terms with the fact that neither of them want it, and they can make the best of it. And be on even footing instead of resent each other forever. It's I feel like a therapist would say they've approached this very, very healthily,
very maturely. Yeah. Well, then we go back to another great relationship in this show. Back to Rhaenys and Corlys. Corlys, talking about what they just went through, and this is where, like as you said, we find out that maybe they're not exactly on the same page about everything.
Yeah. The scene starts with Rhaenys essentially saying that Viserys is in bed. Man, he could that marriage proposal. Whew, that was rough. It took a lot out of him, right? I mean, mainly it was the trip over, right? But Corlys, as a way of apology, says, perhaps I overextended myself in kind of making him come and making him do the proposal, and that he's caused this to happen to Viserys. And Rhaenys kind of says, well, it was his choice to come, but it's weird. But it's weird for a king to do that. And yeah, maybe you shouldn't have. Right?
Yep. But there's no malice between them, which is what I like. There's disagreement for sure, but they actually discuss it very I don't know, constructively almost. They don't put each other down for their opinions on things.
Yeah. There's something that I don't like about the way this resolves at the end, because it still feels like Rhaenys is being forced to, bend to his will instead of it being a true partnership. So let's go through the list. So I think a little bit up to interpretation, but I think she disagrees with the fact that they've made Viserys come to them. I think she does. They disagree about Leonor. So not to bury this lead at all, she says a comment, you know what his true nature is.
Right. That he's gay.
And Corlys says, he'll outgrow it. Ugh.
Right.
Okay, we all hate that. Everyone hates that.
I was going to say, I've seen that face on fathers, and I've heard fathers make those excuses. And it's a man who absolutely knows that his son is gay and refuses to accept it.
Yeah. The timing. This is very interesting for me, but we'll leave that for now. So they disagree, I think, about willingness of the realm to accept Rhaenyra as queen. Rhaenys is like, this is not happening. We're putting our son in danger by doing it, because this is going to be a war. Essentially, espousing the same thing Otto did, right? They're not going to accept her. And I think they disagree even with the value of sitting on the throne. He calls it justice. She asks, why? Wealth, power, pride. Like we got a happy, good life going here. We got the trade, we got the ships, we got our family, which we like.
which I think she
Why?
honestly believes.
I
Yeah.
agree. Why do this? What's the reason? His answer is justice. And you learn that while she has kind of let go, not being named queen, he hasn't. He feels slighted. Well, yeah, let go is maybe strong.
She says she does.
She says she's moved on, put it
Yeah.
behind her, or something. I'm
Right.
paraphrasing,
And I
but
think for the most part she has. It's not all or nothing. I think she's
it's
like 80-20.
it's almost one of those things you enjoy holding on to a little bit, so you can
Correct.
always say you have
Exactly.
it.
So
Like,
so you can give that little smirk to
yes,
Viserys and
exactly.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Like,
Don't truly forgive and put it behind you. You still gotta have it as part of your
right.
driving part of your
Yeah.
personality,
It's
right?
an 80-20 type thing. Yeah. She's
Yes.
mostly over it.
Mostly over it. Mostly at least to the point where she wasn't going to try to do anything about it other than
Right.
smirk.
She is content with this life on
Right.
Driftmark, being the richest family in the realm and all of that.
So that's a list of, well, what was it, five things that I think they kind of disagree about.
Sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
And the last bit of that is her saying she's moved on. She quiets him. She puts her finger on his lips, quiets him. He moves her finger from his lips and basically kind of says, that it's justice for them to try to get on the throne, that she should have been there. And despite her saying she's over it, I don't know, I get the sense that she still has to follow his lead on this.
Right.
All these things they disagree about, they can disagree, but it's going Corliss's way. Right.
And I kind of took it as, yes, it was Corliss getting his way, but was it one of those things they could really say no to at this point?
Like a Ned hand thing?
Like a Ned and Catelyn thing. They could have said no, just like Ned could have said no. But could they have said no? I don't know. And I think she sees that. But I agree with all those things. They disagree in a way that it doesn't lead to blow up fights. They sit there and they're holding each other as they're arguing, right? Yeah. And I think a good marriage is one where you can disagree agreeably, and they seem to do that.
So I agree. I just want to see her get her way.
Absolutely.
Once or twice,
all the
to show me that this isn't a one-sided thing.
All these,
but you're right.
Everything for Rhaenys, please. Yes.
I don't want to make more of it than it is. I think you're right. It seems like a good, happy match and a good marriage that's give and take. It seems mostly that way. But this scene is a litany of things that she disagrees about. And he's like, it's going to be fine.
And I love that he is so willing to go to bat for his wife that he's just like, this is ridiculous.
For sure. And the connection, the love is real. I agree.
He's
still
that.
Incensed about this decades later. Yeah.
For me and my wife, the roles are reversed. She's the one. I'm like the one that's like, it's okay. It's no big deal. And my wife's like, no, that's not fair the way they're treating you. And it's sweet.
It's adorable. Yeah. It's nice.
All right.
Do we not want to gloss over the small-minded error bit and focus on this, or do you think we hit it hard enough?
I'm good. Okay. Yeah. All right. I would remedy that small-minded error by any means necessary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of her not getting the kingdom.
Speaking of Rhaenys, but he's also making his own small-minded error with his son daily.
Right? Yep.
And just that's all.
Yep.
It's gross. Be better, Corlys.
Be better, Corlys. Be better.
That's one of my favorite scenes in this episode. That one.
Agreed.
So we move to a quick one now, which I've called Jealous Lovers on the Beach. I just got to say, I don't love this Joffrey actor.
No?
Honestly, I just think he mumbles. I can't understand about half the things he says. I have to rewind it, and sometimes I still can't get it. I miss. He opens with a jape, and I still don't know what the joke was. If you enlighten me, I'd be happy to hear it.
Oh no, I can't say that this scene was significant enough for me that I recorded it in my memories.
I watched it 5 times. I still don't know what the joke was. But other than that, it's a sweet scene, right?
Yeah, it's sweet. Yep, it's meant to set up the obvious. It's kind of like a teenage love. It feels like to me, and it's meant to set that up for us. This is better than we could have hoped for. Joffrey says.
Yes.
It's sweet.
Yeah.
It's a sweet
imagine
scene.
I don't want to over dramatize it or make it more than it is, or put it on the level, I guess, of Romeo and Juliet. But imagine you're Romeo and Juliet, and you've got this family drama, this intense family drama that will never let you be together. And then on the eve of, where it's really going to fall apart, the two families are just like, nah, actually, it's cool. And you have this relief, like, oh, like we're going to be able to keep this.
Right.
Joffrey and Laenor have been basically told today they can keep doing this. There are some rules. They got to be secret about it and things like that, like they always have. But
it won't have to be as secret, though.
It doesn't have to be as secret. And I mean, it can't be public, but they don't have to hide it from his wife, his future wife. And until now, they've been afraid it was going to blow up. Right. And so like, I gotta feel like they have a bit of a new lease on life.
Huge sigh of relief.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, that's really all I got on that scene.
Me too. In fact, I didn't even have the Romeo and Juliet thing. I just made it up on the spot.
Love it. Love it. You're a king, Scad.
Good old shakes.
Oh boy. Then we get.
Oh, now we have jealous lovers on a ship.
Right. Yeah. The almost main event of the episode.
This is the best scene in the show to me. We'll get to that.
Okay. Yep.
Wedding scene, but
I like, just to call in the books, they kind of combine the two possibilities that are brought up in Fire and Blood. Mm-hmm. Septon Eustace says that Kristen Cole went to Rhaenyra and said, "Run away with me." Mushroom says, no, it was Rhaenyra that wanted to keep things going and actually tried to seduce Kristen Cole. And the scene did a nice job of melding the two of those, giving them both a chance to make their pleas to the other.
Yeah, this scene's fascinating. I've seen a lot of people. Poor Kristen. Sorry, that's not the end. No, that's not the end take. That's not the end take. Let me get through it. Okay. Just how I was just reading my first note, which is just, you've confided in me now and then. I know you a bit. Like, he's just still so tentative to this person that he's got this relationship with. But that's all I meant for that first, poor Kristen. But this scene is fascinating because it's really two people, starting with Kristen, who I think have good intentions, even for the other, not just for themselves, but for their partner.
Correct. Yeah.
A lot of the things that I've seen online are saying, like, how disgusting of him to just assume she would give all this up for him. And I get that. But
on the other hand,
they're glossing over the whole beginning, the whole opening he gives, which is she's done almost nothing but to complain to him about this life that's ahead of her.
And we've seen her do it even.
And we've seen her do it. And so I think in his head, he's wrong. Still wrong, and silly to assume that.
You assumed incorrectly, pal.
You assumed incorrectly, and you should have been able to see that it would be incorrect. Totally. She's got a dragon. She's one of like 10 people in the world with a dragon. Well, in the books anyway. And, you should have been able to see that leaving the life of a queen was not going to be something she was going to do. You should have been able to. But he's bringing it from a perspective of, she doesn't actually want this life. She's told me that, at least pieces of it. And, it's misguided, but he's trying to give her an out that he thinks that she wants. He's wrong. She doesn't want it.
Yes. Yeah.
But he thinks she does. And then her saying, "Are you asking for leave?
Are you wanting PTO or something?"
Yeah. Like you just want to leave the Kingsguard or what, it just shows how far away her head is from this possibility. Mm-hmm. Right. And then as the scene progresses, you realize, well, no, this isn't something he's doing for her. He's doing it. Yes, he thinks it's a good solution for her based on the things she said, but he's doing it for himself.
Right.
And she's doing the same thing. She has this solution that she thinks is good for him of continuing their thing and, getting to be with each other, all this. But she's not really thinking of it from his perspective, that he's given up his honor, that that's about all he has, that he really values that. She's trying to get what she wants and couching it in a way that she thinks he values. She's also wrong. They're both wrong. They're shocking, wrong about a brand new partner that they barely know, right? Like, this is why you talk about these things, right? Instead of just whatever.
Well explained. Well explained. I love it, buddy. I do think it's okay to let Kristen feel the way he feels and recognize his sentiments in all of this, while also noting that he's he's starting to blame her a little bit. In addition to everything that you've said, he's starting to blame her a little bit for everything that happened. The white cloak's the only thing I have to my name, and now I screwed it up. And he blames it on her in when he's talking to Alicent later. It was her at her instigation, which is true, but he's starting to almost kind of take the moral high ground. Like, we've done this, I've soiled my white cloak, so we need to be married now, and is kind of demanding that she do what he feels he needs to do to feel better about himself in order to make this all better. And that's also not discounting what you said about listen, Rhaenyra, you told me you hate this life, so I'm giving you an out from this life.
And a noted, please note, fandom, it's a ridiculous
right
out. I get that,
right,
but he thinks when he does it, I think he thinks it's for the right reasons for her.
And he's kind of projecting a little bit of his feelings into that as well. He's injecting it, and
I think she's doing the same thing.
Correct.
She shames him, right, for even suggesting it. You know, I can't. Why would you think that would be a possibility to give up being queen for you? You know, and she could have put it softer. She didn't, right? But then it's almost like a putting him in his place thing, right? Which I think he deserves. He then says that he's going to be her whore, right? And then again, it's just her projecting on, this is something you should want, right?
We had a great time that one night.
Yeah.
Let's keep this going.
And and even more sweetly, I think she does care for him. I think he cares for her, right?
It's very sweet. Where she's like, I was thinking about you last night, or you were thinking about me. I was thinking about you. Couldn't even sleep. You know, it is sweet.
You can see it in the early parts of the scene. You can see as Kristen is proposing his plan to her.
Mm-hmm.
She actually, even though she's not considering it really at all, she thinks it's sweet. She's smiling at him.
There's little hints of smiles.
There's little hints of smiles, like, oh, how sweet! Like he wants this with me.
It's when he's talking about marrying for love.
Mm-hmm.
We can get married because we love each other, and she does like this little smile that's really sweet. I agree.
But she says the Iron Throne looms larger than me, and then Rhaenyra almost straight up gives him the whole prophecy.
Okay, I was going to ask you because I felt the same thing.
You can't just go spouting that thing around.
We've united the 7 kingdoms and put them on a path, and then he walks away. I was like, my note is, was she going to tell him about the Song of Ice and Fire? I think she was.
I think she was. I think she was too. And
great.
then part of me also was like, why would that be so bad? This prophecy is vague enough that I don't think it needs to be a secret.
It could clear up a lot of things for Kristen.
Or the realm in general. Why not tell everyone this?
Yeah. We got to be on our guard here a little bit. Yeah. He talks about her being nameless along with being free.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about her night of freedom with Daemon when she was out and she was so happy. Remember? It was like, she was almost as giddy. But I think she likes the idea of freedom. That's why she likes riding her dragon so much. I don't think she likes the idea of being nameless, though. I think she enjoys being a Targaryen. I think she enjoys the idea of one day being a queen. She wants to be Rhaenyra Targaryen, Queen of the 7 Kingdoms.
I agree.
And that's okay for her to want that, actually.
Totally. But
yeah.
She should want it. She should fight for it. She should. She absolutely should not accept. Please don't mistake me thinking that she should accept this offer, that it's reasonable. She absolutely makes the right choice. Other than I think she could have been a little nicer about it.
She's like, have you seen my hair color? How?
Yeah.
I'm not going to be nameless.
Do you know who I am? You can kind of, when she turns away from him and, is thinking about how to handle this request, you can kind of almost see a switch go on where you, like, she almost just becomes the dragon in that moment. Like, okay, no, I got to make him understand.
Lay down the law. Yeah.
Right. There's a difference between he and I'm the one in charge. And these things.
Yeah. Brilliant scene. Brilliantly acted. We talked about the
Yeah.
little smiles she gives him. You talked about the switch that she has.
Yep.
We talked about the line of "So you want me to be your whore?" Beautifully delivered line. Oh my gosh, he's got like a little tear in his eye when he says it. Oh, it's great.
And
It's great.
oh, by the way, no, she doesn't want you to be your whore.
No,
Or whore, because she's not going to pay you.
you're not making a
So
cent.
it's a little worse.
Oh man. Okay, we did it.
We did it.
Good scene. Good scene.
So now we go right into it. So Viserys arrives in King's Landing. Alicent, he collapses again, and I got to tell you, Matt. Well, we'll get to it a little bit later, but he doesn't look long for this world.
No.
He's bleeding everywhere, collapsing. He doesn't look good.
And the not scary. Allison doesn't look that concerned.
No.
She's watching from the balcony and he collapses and she's kind of got like this steeled gaze and she kind of just like turns away and goes back in.
It goes more to the last episode, right? Where I kind of walked back how I felt about the relationship, and you did a little less, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you know, that it's more of a partnership and not, I think, more of a partnership that she's suffering through because she has to, and not really a relationship of, you know, of sentiment at all. Right?
Yeah. And I think there's some there still, but we've seen seeds planted in this episode too. And you noted she was wearing a very Targaryen dress earlier.
Mm-hmm.
This scene, she's back to wearing her mother's dress.
Back to the blue one.
Yeah, that we've seen her wear a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
And we're starting to see this shift of looking out for me and mine. Before I was trying to be the good Targaryen queen, support my husband and his choice of heir. Mm-hmm. Now we're starting to see this. I'm going to look out for my kids. I'm going to look out for my family, the Hightowers. And
that's, go ahead, sorry.
And I think that's intentional. And we see that in that kind of steeled gaze she gives the king's collapse of going, homeboy's on his way out. Okay, I got some work to do.
Yeah. It's a very, pragmatic approach to her situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
But before she can make that pragmatic approach, she has to confirm a few things, which is a nice transition to the, this next little scene we get with she and Kristen.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of funny. She almost like fails so badly at asking the questions that she gets the answer.
Oh, totally.
Right? Like she won't like, kind of like Viserys asking Otto, like, spell out exactly the behavior he's referring to that his daughter did in the brothel.
Mm-hmm.
She can't get out the exact question she wants. Well, there's improprieties and certainly mistakes can be made. And I certainly don't mean to question, like all these hemming and hawing of actually getting to the question.
Did Rhaenyra and Daemon boink?
Yes.
That's the question.
Exactly. And Kristen has so much guilt inside,
yeah,
that he just falls on the sword without the question even being asked.
It came out so easily. It probably felt like a relief to finally say
probably. It. Yeah. I have dishonored myself. I deserve no consideration. I have committed it. Mm-hmm. This act you speak of, I have committed it.
And she's like, record scratch?
Yeah. Huh? What? Am I the only one that caught a look from Kristen when he comes in the room and she kind of like pats the little sofa to come sit next to her? Am I the only one? Oh no, not again. Yeah. Oh no, not again. Oh God. Oh God. I don't think they intended it.
No.
But
I think
I did think of it.
It crossed my mind too, buddy. We've been doing this together for too long.
Yeah.
But we did talk last episode about how he's seeing ghosts around every corner now. And anytime anybody, the king asks for him, the queen asks for him, it's like, oh crap, I've been discovered. I'm going down. But yeah.
Yeah, I also wish the showrunners could have given us one more nod. This is the perfect time for Kristen to ask to be sent to the wall instead of being killed.
He did. You're
I would
right.
have liked to see that.
Yeah, you're right.
Didn't do
He
it.
goes straight to execution.
Yeah.
Kill me at this
Yeah.
point. Kill me. My queen, my princess spurned me. I've dishonored my white cloak.
Kill me.
Yeah. Make
Kill
it quick,
me.
please. Let her
Right
happen.
here.
Right here.
So the result is,
oh
with
my
this
gosh.
confession, Alicent sees treachery in Rhaenyra. Now, Rhaenyra didn't lie to her exactly about the question Alicent was asking her, but the spirit of the lie was in there.
And she is, like I said before, she is cut deeply.
Yes.
Like,
I think, her dad's advice, his, pragmatic approach to Rhaenyra is not going to be able to suffer your male heirs to live, or her claim won't survive.
mm-hmm.
Then Larys's suggestion that this is true and that you've been deceived, and then absolute confirmation that you've been deceived, those three things I think push her over the edge.
Right.
And the next time we see her is in a green dress.
And I would add in, even like we said, Viserys' failing health, and knowing that if I'm going to act it, I can't wait forever to do this.
Totally.
Yeah. And then I'll get mine into a poor Kristen. She says the absolute worst possible thing that I think you can say to a guy who's just confessed something really intense. You may go.
Yeah. But there should be punishment involved.
No finality.
I have to be, yeah.
I'd like to know if she said, you know what, everything's going to be fine. It's no big deal. You can leave. That's great. Or, okay, we're going to kill you. At least he knows. But you may go.
Forever waiting for a shoe to drop somewhere.
And you see it in his face like,
okay.
And
so go then.
Worst thing you could say. All right.
Viserys' disgusting arm is what I named this next scene.
That's why this episode is TVMA, is just Viserys' arm. Okay. And later Joffrey Lonmouth's face. But
yeah,
we'll get to that. Viserys' disgusting arm's right up there, though.
It's disgusting. Was it even his arm, or was there something on his arm? It was almost like this whitish, moldy looking thing.
It looks like his arm is literally rotting. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. He gives a little, where's the queen? Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of those of she helps me feel better. Like the scene where he sent everyone away and had her dress his wounds before. I think he honestly feels like, oh, Alicent makes me feel better. Or she knows how to touch me right. Ew. That was gross. I'm sad I said that.
Take it back.
I take it back. But there's a level of comfort there. That's more self-serving. It's like, here, clean my rotted arm because you're my wife and that's your duty, right?
Yeah. But the way the Macers treat him in this scene is interesting. So first of all, we get Supton Orwyle here. I don't know if it's the first time we've seen him, but the other Maester is in the scene with Mellos.
He was the one that made the suggestion in episode 1 about.
Oh, was it about the?
What was the wound? Something on his back.
Okay, lancing it, or
something like that.
Okay, so he suggests poultices. In fact, he's
like, I got him ready
to make one. I got it
right here. Mm-hmm.
And Mellos says leeches work better. Is Mellos killing Viserys?
I think he might be, because he dismisses it pretty quick. And he doesn't say that they even work better. He's like, that takes the pain away from the king or something like that. It's
right. And then they give him, and then the two of them kind of almost like run into each other. It's like physically awkward. Like if I were directing a scene and they ran into each other like this, I would reblock the scene so that didn't happen. Like you're going to do a curved cross and you're going to wait, like not a director, but that's an easy thing to do.
This is meant to indicate
they're meant to indicate that they're not in sync,
butting heads,
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they give him sweet sleep, right, to just try to put him out of his misery a little bit, but they're not. I get the sense they're not really treating him.
No, it's all half measures. It's making him comfortable.
They're hastening him to his end, is what I feel like, and I'm wondering if Septon Orwell isn't on that page, right? We'll get to predictions and stuff later, but
Mhm.
they're not seeing eye to eye on some of this stuff. And Melos we see kind of conspiring with Otto on a few occasions. We see him conspiring. I think he's later talking to, is it Hobart? He's later talking to somebody else.
He's with Beesbury at the wedding.
Beesbury, okay. Beesbury
Yeah.
at the wedding. Anyway, I feel like he's pushing. I don't know, but I don't know why though, because I don't know even which side or who it would benefit at this point.
Right.
Right. Anyway, that's that. So we do get a little bit there between Lionel and Viserys talking about, Viserys is almost regretting that he hasn't been challenged more, that he could have shown his true mettle.
And Larys is like, dude, like,
yeah, I mean, good on Larry. Good, it's Lionel. Good on Lionel.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's kind of giving him the truth here instead of just appeasing his. Oh, you would have risen to the occasion and fought back all would-be invaders, and
Viserys wants actually
to be told the truth.
Yeah, he even says that you've told me the truth, like you always do.
Yeah, he actually says, and these words coming from another lord might have been more reassuring.
Mm-hmm.
And he's kind of saying it through gritted teeth, so it doesn't seem like he appreciates it. But I think you're right. I think that's what he does want.
Yep, I think that's why I made him hand in the first place. Is Larys has always given him, not Larys. I'm sorry, I keep saying that. No, yes, Lionel. No, Lionel. Lionel's always done that for him in the other scenes we've seen, and he appreciates that.
It does feel to me that Lionel's maybe being even a little too honest, and that he's also playing Viserys a little bit. He's playing to that weakness, reinforcing you're weak, man.
You kind of are. Yeah. Keeping him doubting.
Yeah. Unsure of himself, so that he could be maybe more easily controlled.
Right. It's almost like physically they're trying to keep him comfortable, right?
And undermine his decision making.
But at the same time, mentally they're trying to sow these seeds of doubt and discord.
Because then he's more malleable. They can govern how they want.
Waste away.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is a real interesting idea, though, of is it not better to have peace than to have songs sung of you after you're dead? It's an interesting question to ask.
I know what the small folk would take.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, there's no shortage of good songs. You can write songs about, the maiden in the pool. You don't need a song about Viserys. But
the bear and the maiden fair.
It would be nice to raise your kids in peace for 20 years.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Great song by John Mayer, thought of, called Home Life. He's kind of lamenting the fact that he's famous now and kind of wishing that he kind of misses those old days of anonymity.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about, I'd rather go to my grave with the life that I gave, not just some melody line on a radio wave. Right? Being remembered for not just what he did, but who he was.
Shades of Rhaenyra in the Kingswood, complaining about her.
Yeah.
Flight.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like Crimea River girl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sorry, John Mayer. Go back to your mansion and all your girlfriends and all that.
I was just about to go back and write that hit song. Here I am alone
in my principles.
Or whatever.
Good, that thing you do, Polscad. Love it.
I did my best, but I butchered it for you.
Yep. There he goes, off to write that hit song, Alone in My Principles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And what he misses is he says that, like, if he wishes he'd been in that crucible, and he kind of is in the crucible right now. Working through this succession thing.
Yeah. And he doesn't realize it.
Yeah. It's not Aegon taking over the Seven Kingdoms, but it's a big deal.
It's a big one.
Yeah. He's in it right now. Like, you're in it, dude.
Yeah.
Rise to the occasion. Do something about it.
Spoilers abound here if we keep going, but yeah, you could argue this is as important as anything Aegon did.
Mm-hmm.
The way this is handled and the results of what not handling it properly does.
Oof. All right.
Driftmark comes King's Landing. we get some opening festivities. So first of all, we get Maelys
Woot, woot.
along
I
with
wanted a
sea
close up
smoke.
of her so bad, of her on the dragon. We
Yeah,
don't get it.
I think we'll
But
get one, but we didn't get it today. But still, it
mhm.
was great to see her.
Right. Yep.
Um, they do make a note in this. Corlys made a note that the Valerians own half of the dragons in the world, which I don't think that's really quite right in
So 2.
Fire and Blood. But
So
yeah,
there's
they have.
4.
There's seems like there's fewer of them around in this than than in Fire and
Right.
Blood. But
And we might see some more come along.
yeah, we will.
But, yeah.
This is your weekly reminder that Jason Lannister is a douche canoe. This guy
Oh my
sucks.
gosh, that cringe joke.
This guy sucks so bad.
More on that in Dragons After Dark, but he does. And I like he approaches the king and Rhaenyra. They're sitting right there together, and he addresses the king. Congratulations, Your Grace. You made a fine match. And then, in just like standing ovation for Rhaenyra moment, she responds to him instead of the king.
Mhm.
Thank you. I can think of no better man than Sir Lenore to marry. Yes. Go Rhaenyra.
Yes.
Get it, girl. Get it. He sucks.
He does suck. Gerald Royce is interesting.
Okay.
I think he's going to be a badass. I think he's going to die badassedly. I'm calling that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a projection or a spoiler in any way, because Gerald Royce doesn't exist as far as I can tell.
He's a
canon.
show character. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think that's excellent fodder for for someone to kill him. But I kind of like the guy. He's no nonsense. He's kind of willing to go toe to toe with Daemon.
Yeah, in front of the king, even. Yeah. More on that. But so I didn't like that all of a sudden the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard is the one who has to announce all the party goers as they enter. That doesn't feel like Kingsguard.
Poor Westerling.
I agree. I mentioned how much I could listen to him talk every day, and I think this was just to give him some time to just talk and for us to listen to his wonderful accent.
It does
a few more times. Voice. So
it's true. As we keep, spoiler, I guess. The Valerians enter. Rhaenys is in black. A wonderful entrance from that whole big family.
Mm-hmm.
Good job. Daemon then enters last. Just the balls on this guy.
Well,
they have to add a chair for him, Matt.
And Viserys is like, yeah, bring it
fine,
in.
Just get fine. I don't want to fight with him right now.
But this is the same thing as Corlys not showing up to greet him at Driftmark. It's the exact same thing. Yeah. Daemon knows he can come into this, and if he's in front of everybody and it's Viserys' daughter's wedding, Viserys isn't going to say a thing.
Should have cut those tongues out.
Yep. Leave those tongues in, you get unwanted wedding guests.
Daemon.
And results.
At your wedding. Yeah, I'm just like, kick him that out. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Just get him out.
Yep. Get him out of there. Westerling doesn't even announce him.
Yeah, just walks in. Everyone goes quiet.
Yep.
The murmurs.
But the party must go on, right?
Indeed.
And Viserys kicks things off. And then boom.
Yeah, the speech is nice. It's what you'd expect. It's unifying the houses, blah, 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 blah.
Which, quick question. By unifying the houses, are we talking about the royal family? Because the houses are already unified. Rhaenys is married to Corlys. Targaryen and Velaryon are already together. But we're talking about the ruling Targaryen line.
Are you baiting me, Matt?
A little bit.
Because you know how I feel about this whole blood bullshit. You know how I feel about it.
Almost as strongly as you feel about Kingsguard duties and responsibilities.
It's probably stronger. Just in case people don't know. The blood is garbage. The blood argument means nothing. Valerians have been wedding Targaryens for centuries.
Forever.
They've all got dragon blood in them. All
You
Valyrians
can't
have dragon
untangle
blood in
that
them.
family tree. You
Can't
cannot untangle it.
And for that matter, with all the people Daemon's sleeping with and everybody else is sleeping with, half of the kingdom has a drop of dragon blood in them as well. The blood argument sucks. Everyone's a Targaryen. Literally almost everyone in the realm. So if you go back far enough, has blood of the first men and the Andals and everybody else in there.
You're a Targaryen. You're a Targaryen. You're a Targaryen.
Unless you're starting to like take vials of blood and like measure how much different blood is in each freaking little thing. Sorry, I'll stop. But I hate the blood argument. It's
better
so
be a
stupid.
pretty advanced lab to do that.
And I know a lot of the magic is based in blood, and I get the ceremonial aspect of all that, but like, ugh. Yes, they've already been united. They've been united a dozen times in the last 130 years. Maybe not a dozen, but a lot. It's stupid.
Stupid. Yeah.
Also stupid. Yes, the Valerians are very powerful at this moment because Corlys was a badass and made a bunch of money, but they're not a very powerful house. They can't command 1/50th of the number of people the Hightowers can get. Or the Lannisters. Big
time.
I mean, the Freys probably have more sons at this point than... It's stupid. Sorry. You successful baiting, Matt. Good job.
Deep breath. Mission accomplished. Let's talk about Alicent's dress.
Also, sorry, I do like the Valerians. I like Corlys. I like the Valerians. I like future Valerians.
We've established that. Yeah.
I don't hate them. I just these arguments that the show is using, I don't like. Right. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. Let's talk about Alicent's dress because holy cow, boy, did they do that right. This is a pivotal scene in the books and nailed it. She looks amazing in it.
She does.
And of course, there are times when the show leaves things for us to figure out on our own. Not this moment. They decided this was important enough.
Yeah.
We're going to have Larys explain this to his brother Harwin. Does the beacon really grow? There's the beacon glows green when banners are being called to war, when the Hightowers are calling their banners to war.
And did they just make that up? Because I didn't know that.
That's in Fire and Blood. It is in Fire and Blood. I looked it up and reminded myself. I had the same question. It's just a passing line. It's nothing like we don't see it actually in action.
Right.
So,
but it's not mentioned in Fire and Blood as she wore the green to do that. That's what they've added that component here.
Right. In fact, it's in the Sons of the Dragon chapter in Fire and Blood, which is quite a bit before all of this.
Aenys and Maegor.
So,
but
nice
still,
poll, show writers. Nice poll.
It's a cool little reference to use. My sister
to really slap it home for us.
My sister and pseudo brother-in-law, who I watched the episode with once while I was traveling this week, they don't like how they had to like explain that. In that little one-off. They're like, you should be doing a good enough job telling this story that we get what that means without having to explain it with a little side thing. I liked it. I thought it was a nice touch. But
I thought it was nice too. I think this is a significant enough moment that we do want to hammer that home. And I like the way they did it. So it doesn't bother me at all.
Alicent, when she gets... So let's, first of all, Viserys, it was not lost on Viserys. He got, I think, exactly what it meant.
Yep, the look on his face. Yep.
Alicent calls Rhaenyra stepdaughter and says it in a tone that brooks no argument and gives no positive feelings.
We are not friends anymore.
Yeah.
The warmth is gone.
This is the moment it's turned, I think.
It implies authority. You're the daughter.
Yes.
It's a very loaded statement.
And then Viserys just trains on through. He's like, Second Age of Dragons is coming because we're uniting the clans and everything.
Well, where was I? And Lionel, of course, is there for him. Yep. At his side.
Okay. Finish the speech. Nothing changed.
I will literally be here.
Nothing changed at all with that entrance. Yeah.
Which really, what is Viserys going to do at that point in front of everybody like that? Probably soldiering on was the right.
He doesn't have a lot of options, but
right. Anyway. And then we get to a lovely dance scene.
Sure.
Which is great.
I imagine there are people that just love these scenes, right? With all the costumes, and I bet Birdie D loves this one. You know, the dancing is fine.
The dancing's
There's
fine.
there's horny looks all over the place. They're all looking at each other hornily. I didn't really get anything else out of the dancing bit. Did you?
Other than kind of along that same note, is this is more about the other characters viewing this scene than it is the actual dancing that's going on,
Yes.
right? It's more about the reactions of those watching. It pans to, you see Damon's face, and there's a lot of character building just in looking at their faces. You see Damon, you see Corlys and Rainier and Rhaenys, you see Kristen Cole, you see the King, you see Alicent, you see Joffrey Lonmouth. And it all does a little bit of character building as they are all watching these two dance. And that's pretty interesting. So
those weren't all horny looks, then, is what you're saying.
Not all of them.
No, you're right.
But a few of them.
A few of them.
There is a nice bit of chemistry, again, between Rhaenyra and Laenor. They can sit and kind of jape with each other as they're dancing. And again, this isn't true love, but I think there's potential of an effective pair who are playing their outward facing roles well. And you just...
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
You know, like you said earlier, like they grew up together, like they know each other, they're friendly. They can make this work probably if they're getting other things elsewhere. You know?
Right.
It's not an uncommon thing, you know, to not get everything you want in one place and, you know, be able
to make the most of it.
I mean, like just a job, for instance, like maybe I'm not completely, well, not even talking about myself specifically, but maybe not completely fulfilled by my job, but I get these other things from it, right? That allow me to get fulfillment in other ways. I've got lots of vacation or something, or
right. I'm home by 5 every night.
Car allowance, and I really love cars, right. Or, you know, like there's lots of ways to get fulfillment that, you know, anyway.
Right. I like that Hobart Hightower brings up the same metaphor again of the flowers blooming in places they're not supposed to bloom. He says to her, I had a feeling, to Alicent, I had a feeling you might wither under King's Landing's sun, but you stood tall.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, okay, show writers, we get it.
Yeah, absolutely. The first chance Alicent gets, as soon as she can stand up and leave the table, she does, and she goes to her family and is like, "I'm gonna." It's almost like hey, I'm going to need you on this, you know, and they step up. They say, "We're here for you." Right?
Yeah, and maybe it's a message to Viserys too. Yeah,
yeah. Oh, I'm sure it is. Yeah. So we get also absolutely the first chance this Royce gets. He approaches and accuses Daemon.
Yeah, let's go back to Gerald here. Yeah.
So this guy has no fear at all of Daemon. For those that don't know, House Royce doesn't fuck around. Like, they've been around a long time. They're one of the oldest families around. They got old First Man blood. You know, they've got these runes Matt was talking about that they think protect them, and they don't mess around. And this guy doesn't either. He wants satisfaction. Daemon, in essence, says, "I also want satisfaction. You can't just accuse me of this stuff in King's Landing without paying for it." And then he demands a runestone, which is like the most baller move.
So I get everything, right? Because my wife is dead.
Oh, she died? I'm so sorry to hear that. I get it all, right?
And
oh, by the way, I'm going to make my claim right after this.
Right. Yeah.
I'll see you there.
I was kind of surprised no one butted in. Lionel and the King just kind of sat there and watched. The two most powerful men in the realm. Just kind of like, let's see how this thing plays out.
Yeah. I get the sense from Viserys, at least. I don't know what Lionel's game is exactly, but from Viserys, I just get the sense that he watches this whole evening and is just like, the realm is falling apart.
I'm losing it all.
It's all coming down. Like everything that he sees is just bad news, and he just almost feels powerless to stop it, including this one little interaction.
Yeah.
Right. Which he absolutely should have power over.
Which he should be able to step in and say something at least.
Right. Agreed. How about Lana?
But Damon's not done. No, he's not. Yeah.
Lana just kind of goes for it, doesn't she? I mean, he approaches her, but she like gave him the look across the table and then went out to
Mm-hmm.
dance. Then he approaches her. She calls him every young maiden's dream, referring to him being a dragon rider and a conqueror and all these things. And he just says, only because you don't know me yet.
Oh, they like the bad boys.
Oh, they do like the bad boys, man.
The book says
it's such a weird thing to me. But everybody likes their thing. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
the book says his eye fell upon Lord Corliss's daughter Lana. But this actually happened during a courtesy call to Driftmark, not necessarily at the wedding. And
yes, well after the wedding.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that they threw in a great line from the book, but in a different way. Damon says to Lena, has anybody ever told you you're nearly as pretty as your brother? And Mushroom says that in his history in Fire and Blood. So he wrote that Lena was almost as pretty as her brother. So
that's funny.
Great pull. Again,
good
show
pull.
writers.
Yeah, good job. You have anything else on the Lana Damon stuff? It seems like they're teasing something. Seems like.
Then we get Joffrey, the Night of Kisses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Joffrey's talking with Leonor. He's sharp. He's put it together. He's figured out that Kristen is Rhaenyra's squeeze, right?
He is
sharp. Just from the horny looks. He's just put it together, right? I guess to hide that look of, I'm not going to use it, to hide that look, he should have worn his helm, I guess, like all the rest of the Kingsguard. What the hell's the deal with that? Put your damn helmet on.
That's a show choice. They want us to see his reactions and feelings.
Listen, if Mandalorian can put fucking Pascal in a helmet forever and never show us his face, I think we can deal with not being able to see whoever what the fuck is this guy's name? Sir Kristen
Frankel. Fabian
Kristen
Frankel.
Yes.
Crispin, actually.
Sir Crispin Blankstruck.
Mm-hmm.
That's my new nickname for him that I can't say. Sir Crispin Blankstruck. Because there's alliteration that I can't use in it.
Oh boy.
Yep.
I appreciate that, Scad. I don't not love the idea of Joffrey coming up and talking to Kristen and being like, hey, this is basically going to be a 4-way relationship here. Like, we're all in this together. So, you and I are kind of in this whole thing too. Let's partner up on this,
Yeah. Yeah. This little mini scene with Joffrey and Kristen is the main reason I don't like this scene. I don't get what he's doing. Right? Like, if you want to have that conversation, okay, have it in private.
Not at the wedding.
Not at the wedding.
Yeah, he would.
In front of everyone.
Yep.
Not like, I don't think timing is really an issue right now. Like, what's he trying to accomplish here, really?
Yep.
Right.
And I think that's maybe to show a little bit of his character. He's impulsive, that we saw it on the beach scene, that he's kind of a smart a little bit. He's kind of obnoxious and sarcastic. And I think that's part of his character. But I agree. Wait till later. Have the conversation. It's not a bad idea for you two to get on the same page. And he also has no idea that Kristen is a ticking emotional time bomb.
Right. Like I said, in his defense, he didn't say anything that's that incensing.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't say anything that would anger any human I know. Right?
Right.
I know this secret. You know this secret. Let's
protect the people we love.
Protect the people we love. And
this will be great.
I mean, he's whispering it. It sounds conspiratorial. Maybe Kristen's really dumb. Maybe he thought it was a threat, I guess. I don't know. I can't put together why Kristen did any of this. It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm hoping you can explain it to me.
Humanity doesn't always make sense, for sure.
Shows should. Shows should. They should. You're telling me a story. You don't want to tell me a story and be like, nah, we decided to not make that part not make any sense.
And
What?
I disagree with that. I like to
Okay.
see humanity in my stories. I like to see stuff that sometimes doesn't make sense, other than to say human beings sometimes don't make sense. We do things that completely defy sense.
Actually, I don't think we would do that. They may appear to defy sense to others, but we do things for reasons.
Mhm.
We always have reasons for the things that we do. They may be deeply held reasons. They may even be reasons we
We
can't
don't
really
acknowledge.
explain. Right.
Exactly.
But there's
Exactly.
always, they don't make no sense. There's reasons behind everything.
For us, yes, individually. But then other people see that and go, oh, dude, why? That
Right.
makes zero sense.
Right. So, okay. So we
Okay.
disagree on that, I guess. But
Well, do we want to get to that now or at the part where they actually start fighting?
uh no, that's fair. You're right. Stay on target. Stay on target. Uh anyway, it's clear through this interaction that Kristen is fuming. Like, he looks angry.
For sure. For sure.
We get
Yep.
Rhaenyra and Harwin dancing. Yes, I noticed. They're, you know,
For a minute.
for a minute. Rhaenyra has made this connection with Cole. That's maybe burned up. She still has this understanding available to her. So let's find a new target. Maybe.
Look at options. Yeah. Start swiping.
Just start swiping. And then just one final note. We mentioned the word realm falling apart. They're just kind of like ripping food. There are several quick shots of them just like ripping food apart and stuff.
Yeah, Viserys
It's
especially.
like a metaphor for the realm
Yeah.
too. Like, it's just being ripped apart.
Right. It's like he's cutting a brick sometimes. He's just like sawing at this food. And
It reminded me a little of the messiness of Denethor and Two Towers as well.
Nice. Yeah. You get these drums almost like ominous, like they're going to battle almost. The music is very percussion based. Viserys' gross eating was my note.
Yeah, it is gross. Because it's like he's like pawing at it with his 3 good fingers and his bad hand.
It's gross. And then we get this interesting exchange where Daemon and Rhaenyra are flirting with each other in front of everybody. I mean, full on touching the face stuff. Like, it's weird. Was she partially serious in her take me away claims? Or was that her just poking him saying, you could do this, right? You always say you can do whatever you want. So take me away. Do it. Do it.
I think so. We've come a long way since that pleasure house, right? Rhaenyra has achieved some sexual agency. She's, in a sense, seized it, right? I mean, she owns that part of her to the point where she's made a marriage contract that requires it, right?
Big time.
I think she's been awakened a little bit. I think she does like Daemon. I think this scene is meant to show us that they are into each other. That was not just Daemon lusting for the throne. There is real interest sexually, and there's real interest lifestyle wise. They think they're a fit, and I think Rhaenyra is trying to get back to him a little bit for what he did in the pleasure house by doing a similar thing to him that he did to her.
Right.
Yep. Tease him a little bit.
Yeah.
Tease him. Lead him on.
Because it's obvious that he wants her and he can't have her. He's a man who's used to getting what he wants. She knows that.
Yeah.
I see that.
He literally asks her to marry him at her own wedding feast. Like, this dude has zero shame at all. Like, yeah. It's an obvious Targaryen mating ritual.
Yep.
Does he kiss her here? Viserys is like looking through the crowd and like grabs her by the face.
I mean, it's
like,
close.
It's
the type of scene that could be on the front of like a movie poster or something. Their heads are together and his hands are like kind of along her jaw or whatever.
Yeah. So then, before it can happen, whether you believe it was going to happen or not, and whether he was going to free his sword and go kill the Kingsguard like Rhaenyra suggests or not, before that can happen, we get a brawl that turns into an execution, essentially. And
Yeah.
I've only just now put together, maybe, like, is that why he did it? He's also watching this whole thing play out? Does he
Mm,
see Daemon and Rhaenyra connecting like this and just lose it and just takes it out on the last dude that he interacted with because he knows he can't take it out
that
on
could have
Daemon?
added to it. That could have added to it. I think I like that, and I hadn't thought of that, and I think it could be part of it. I think it's a lot of things that have just been simmering and bubbling and finally
Mm-hmm.
exploding. I think he's been a ball of pure nervous energy
Mm-hmm.
since the chat with Alicent when it all got out.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh crap, she knows. And then you mentioned, could it be that he thought Joffrey was a bit of a threat? I think that too. It's like, oh, somebody else knows too.
Yes. Right.
It's not just Alicent, it's somebody else. Oh man, what if he tells some other people about
Yeah.
this? And that's where he the combination of no, he can't tell anybody, this night of kisses can't tell anybody, and all this angst and frustration and just all the emotions he's been feeling, all of that comes together into him making a choice that to everybody else makes zero sense.
Mm.
But to him, even if he's not acknowledging it, was the choice that he could make at that moment, was wipe this guy out. But I do think it was a bit of, I'm annoyed at this guy anyways. He's close to me. He's the one I'm going after. There is
It's
no perfectly fit explanation for him doing what he did, though. And I
Yeah.
think that's intentional.
I think I agree. I hate it, but I think
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Uh, I guess they've just set Kristen up to be. Well, I mean, maybe they've set him up just to be a powder keg. Maybe that's it. But
Right.
everything that they've given us so far with him is, he's lower class. He doesn't have any advantages. Like, he doesn't have. He would know that him doing this to someone is beyond the, like, he's not going to get any forgiveness, or he doesn't have a powerful family to like weigh in and be like, oh, let's give him another chance. Let's, like,
Mm-hmm.
this should be. I mean, he should be executed for this, right?
Yeah, we'll get to that for sure.
I mean, get to it where and when.
Well, okay. Yes, we can get to it right now. But you were making a point about Sir Kristen and that he
Well,
doesn't really have anywhere. So I wanted you to be able to finish that
oh,
before we move into what the consequences should have been for his actions here.
well, I guess just wrapping back to, there wasn't really a reason that made sense to anyone but him. It feels like the way they've set him up is that that wouldn't make sense to him either as an action. That's an action before
Sure.
he was a Kingsguard member would certainly get him killed, and
Mm-hmm.
doesn't make any sense
And
to go
he
kill.
cherished that white cloak so much.
And he did.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe he already thinks that's in the rearview mirror. Like, that's gone. I ruined that. But I don't know.
It's
It
kind
just
of that
doesn't
same.
make sense.
It's that thing where you mentioned before, having a bad day at work or something, and you end up being having a shorter temper with your family afterwards, which
Yeah.
and in your mind you're like, I shouldn't be reacting this way to my family. But
Right.
emotions are powerful, man. Like you do that and you suddenly all of a sudden you're making mistakes that you normally wouldn't make. And this is amplified times 10,000, right? Besides just a normal give it a little snippy remark to your kids. But punching someone's face into a pulp, but which it's literally what it was. It was such a gross scene. But it was very much it was crazy. And we've already said it. So
the king consort too. He punches the king consort.
So yeah.
I mean, that's a major family member.
He takes out Laenor Velaryon. He's sitting there beating someone up in the mid, like no one stops him.
Mm-hmm.
That's another crazy thing to me. Everyone watches.
Yeah.
You've got all the Kingsguard there. I'm assuming you see a bunch of them anyways. So
one of them is causing the action map.
Right. You've got 6 more. Leave 2 with the king. You've still got 4 that could get in there and stop things. You've got household guards, the Targaryen guards and everything that could be stopping this.
Yeah.
Why are we letting them fight? Why are we letting them do this?
Yeah. I think we're meant to believe that the chaos of the scene and the crowd of people dancing got in the way to such a degree that nobody could get there in
That
time.
no one was really
that could do anything about
sure
it.
of what could happen. Okay, I can maybe
Well, the
see that.
Kingsguard are all like on the outskirts. All the people
Right.
are in the middle dancing, and then there's just chaos, and everybody's being shoved around, and nobody can get there in time. But they didn't show that. They didn't show any Kingsguard trying to get there to stop it or anything.
Right.
I mean,
All that
they
is
show Harwin. They show Harwin getting in there to rescue Rhaenyra,
which is great. Lionel
Yep.
just gives him the little nod, and Harwin's like, he like shrugs, and he's like, "Here we go."
Yeah,
He
let's
goes
do
in and
this.
takes care of business. I love
Let's do
that.
this. Yeah.
And then after he's done, and after things quiet down, and after it's apparent what he'd just done, there's
Mhm.
this faceless dude lying there.
Mhm.
He's allowed to just leave
He just
and go
walks out.
wherever. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Westerling at least should have been like, hold on a minute.
Whoa, like
Just wait a minute. We got to go write this down in the book. Let's figure this out. You know, like
Oh
it did.
my gosh.
It's this scene bothered me a lot.
It was bothersome. I agree.
I mean, the whole wedding scene. But this part of the scene
Mhm.
bothered me a lot.
Yep, I agree. In the book, the scene that this scene was based on was actually part of the melee
Mhm.
to celebrate the wedding. So the
Yeah.
wedding, King Viserys in the show announced that there's going to be 7 days of celebration and everything. In the book, that actually happens. They have the 7 days of celebration, right?
Mhm.
And there's a tourney and all this stuff. And during the melee of the tourney, Cole, it says, fought in a black fury. And we certainly see that here. He actually fought Harwin Strong.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's a spoiler, because I mean, maybe that could happen
Hard
later.
to know. It feels like they're throwing it away, but they could do it a different way.
Beat him up. But it says it was the Knight of Kisses who felt the fullest measure of his wrath. And it says that he didn't die on the scene. Joffrey died 6 days later because of the injuries sustained in his fight with Kristen. But
which is again a strange choice. I don't know what he's got against Joffrey.
Right. Yeah.
It's a weird. Why'd you pick him to wreck and stuff?
It's crazy. They kind of had set Kristen up to be this almost like Lancelot type character, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But we know how Gurm is with subverting tropes. And
we do.
A joyous celebration, the book says, had become the occasion of grief and recrimination. And that certainly happened here.
So remember, I don't know, like I told you so or anything, but like remember in the very first episode, but in House of the Dragon, I'm like, it doesn't make sense that all this violence is happening in this tourney.
Yep.
Right? It doesn't make sense. They wouldn't allow this to happen with people's heirs and all these important people. And then here we have in Fire and Blood, it happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of very similar to what,
it's the Blackwood and the Bracken scene.
He's Blackwood and the
recently
Bracken scene too.
Mm-hmm.
But Kristen's just wrecking these dudes in a tournament, right? And people will point out, well, yeah, it did happen. Look, it just happened in Fire and Blood. It just happens. Why are you so angry about this happening, Scott? Well, I'm angry because Viserys' reaction to that was that he was enraged and that Viserys isn't a doer, right? But he's really angry that this happened at this tournament. It wrecked the festivities. He's really upset about it. He made them be apart at court, I think, if I remember right, what the ramifications were. Like due to those actions at this violent tourney, he made changes at court that affected his family, right? It was a big deal. That's all.
And here it was, okay, we're moving up the wedding to right now.
Yes.
Let's not even clear the tables. Let's not even clean the blood up. They did do them the service of taking away the body, it looked like.
Yeah.
But we're going to have a wedding.
Yeah, they just do the wedding right away. I didn't care too much for the wedding either way. I never do, I guess. But
says the man who just got back from a wedding.
A beautiful ceremony. I care about real weddings very much. Wedding scenes in these shows.
Right. Yeah.
But the more interesting part of this is they splice it in with Kristen Cole going to my favorite Godwood location.
Yeah, we get scene number 2 in the Godswood.
Yep, at least 2.
Mm-hmm.
And he's about to murder himself.
Yep. He's had it.
And
He's like, how can I come back from this?
yeah. And there's a little bit of a timeline fuck up, I guess. It feels like those two things are happening simultaneously, but Alicent is in both places, so it must mean that the wedding happened first.
I'm thinking the wedding happened first. Yeah, before this.
Yeah.
But what he was doing, it reminded me a little bit, and I don't know why I'd been reading about this, and it came to mind that the samurai custom of seppuku, where it was kind of a ritualistic suicide, often done during my, again, I hate to call this stuff research because Wikipedia, in my reading something on Wikipedia is not research, it's reading. It was done to restore honor, to preserve honor, capital punishment, or because the person had brought shame on themselves. All of which
it's a good fit.
Can apply to Kristen here.
Good fit.
And it was only reserved for those who held the title of samurai, at least traditionally. And so he, of course, was in a position of
similar
warrior nobility, kind of. So that was a cool little connection there.
Yeah, and you still kind of wonder what his mental state was when he was doing that. We don't get any words.
Mm-hmm.
Is it just that he feels like he's dishonored himself and can't recognize himself in the mirror anymore? Is it because Rhaenyra has been taken from him? Is it because what are the reasons that he's doing it?
Yes.
Right? But,
yes.
Yeah, maybe all of it. Yeah.
Yes.
It could be all of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think, and it's a bit of, like I said, how do I come back from this? I can't. I just murdered somebody in front of everybody. In my white cloak.
Seems like you got away with it just fine.
In my white cloak.
Seems the way to get away with it is just stand up and walk away.
Just to do it. But it won't last, Scad.
Probably not. The rats feast on the blood at the very end.
Mm-hmm.
Very much I feel like a metaphor for Viserys.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to die at some
his
point.
reign.
He's not in good shape. And all of the rats, all of the rest of these characters I posted on Twitter a couple weeks ago, they all suck. They're all rats, and they're all going to feast on this blood, right?
Yep.
I think that's meant to show that.
Here it comes.
It's already started.
Here it comes. Yep.
We get that in Dany's chapter that we just covered with with Anne? We covered the House of the Undying.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that image that Dany sees in the House of the Undying with the little weasel men that are like eating the woman.
The Westerosi.
That's meant to represent
corpse.
Westeros.
Yeah.
We get the same thing here, right?
We've
got all these different Strongs, High Towers, Rhaenyra, Alicent. They're all, anyway, no spoilers, I guess, but I think that's what that rat is supposed to mean.
I'd agree with that. Yep. Then we get, it appears that this is the final moments that we get from these actresses.
Yeah.
Playing Rhaenyra and Alicent.
Yes.
Millie and Emily.
Fantastic job. Both
yeah.
of them.
Yeah. And even their final scenes were just great. When the marriage scene, there's like that pure devastation on Rhaenyra's face. Mm-hmm. And it's both for herself, and I think it's for Laenor too. She just feels awful for him.
Yeah. And maybe for Kristen too.
For
the whole event, right? Had we done this differently, maybe this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. And I think understatedly, Emily's final line of Sir Criston at the very end was brilliant. Like her eyes there in that scene, she kind of had this look on her eyes of like, don't do it.
Yeah.
But it was great. It was great.
An olive branch of absolution.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Our hearts were broken by the same person.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes.
And that's the episode.
Shall we move into our special segment?
It's very special, and we should go to it.
Mm-hmm.
So here we go. Everybody turn off if you are not interested in hearing book spoilers, because that's what we're going to do right now. But join us next week for episode 6. Right?
Episode 6, yeah.
So let's do it. Doon, doo, doo, doo.
Dragons After Dark.
Okay. Um, so Scad, do you think, obviously in the book we have the big moment of Alicent wearing the green dress, Rhaenyra wearing a black dress, and that's where we get the terms the blacks and the greens. Now
Yep.
we have Alicent wearing her green dress in this scene here. What does that mean going forward for what becomes a very pivotal moment? Of course, Rhaenyra is wearing a white dress.
Because she's getting married, you don't wear black to your wedding. Yeah, that scene in Fire and Blood, of course, takes place much earlier at I believe it's the 5-year anniversary
5-year, yeah,
of Alicent's marriage to Viserys.
mm-hmm.
And again, the timeline's all different for all of that. But in that time, they were already fighting, and Alicent wore green and Rhaenyra wore black, and so they became known as the Blacks and Greens. Quick history recap for those that didn't know. So the question is, how are they going to get there, or are they going to care to maintain that?
Right. Yeah.
I think they will. I think they'll find a way to maintain that, but it might just be as simple as, the next time we see them together, they're in green and black.
Rhaenyra, Alicent continues to wear her green dresses.
Yeah,
that could be it. I wondered if
it could be when Rhaenyra presents her heir.
Oh, there you go.
She comes wearing black or something.
Wearing black.
Could be something like that.
I wondered aloud on Twitter, and I even caught some flack for it, of wondering if they would do away with the terms the greens and the blacks altogether, just because the blacks as a term could be troublesome.
Sorry, but flack for
that. I think that it seems like a pretty big thing in Fire and Blood, and I don't know that they'll change that. So, and if they're making it super clear that it's about, it originated with colors of dresses, and pull it off.
Yeah. One of the things that I really liked that they did, I mean, I don't love how they handled it overall, but it was something that I thought was weak in Fire and Blood, was that when Criston has his change of heart and stops supporting Rhaenyra, it's never really fully explained why that happened, right? We have several different POV suggestions, but none of them felt strong enough. And none of the suggestions did Criston and Rhaenyra sleep together. And none of the suggestions were the actions super spurn worthy. It was like Criston proposed, that they go live together, and she was just like, no, it seemed softer than what they did here. Right.
And it was and it was like the turn of it was like a new paragraph. Regardless of what happened from that moment on, Criston Cole was her enemy or whatever.
So despite the fact that I didn't love not having what I thought was a clear reason for Cole snapping, I do think they gave his turn a lot more. They made it make a lot more sense in House of the Dragon. I really liked that.
Which I think we talked about in previous episodes. So we'd be interested in seeing
how they did that.
If they were able to make it emotionally powerful enough to justify him turning.
Yeah, and I think they did. It worked for me. But it'll be interesting though to see now where he goes, because that rage cannon he turned on was pretty strong. Is it still rage cannon, or is he just going to fall into a new level of comfort with Alicent, where he's more reasonable? Yeah, maybe just kind of he wakes his own version of the dragon every now and again,
right?
But that he finds a level of normalcy with Alicent. Like if you're just walking around like a rage cannon all the time, I think it would get pretty boring. So I think he is going to find some level of normalcy with Alicent.
But when he pops, he pops.
But then,
and I wonder if Alicent will find a way to absolve Criston of what happened, with her being the queen. And that will bind him more to her, that she's able to work her queenly ways and say something like Sir Criston was, they could make up all sorts of lies. The Knight of Kisses was planning to assassinate Rhaenyra, and he got to Joffrey first. He actually saved everybody by doing what he did.
Yeah.
And by the queen's decree, I absolve him of any wrongdoing or whatever.
He saw Joffrey pull a gun.
Exactly.
Yeah, I could also see it going a different way, where she, instead of being able to absolve him and kind of have him in her debt like that, and make, not in a negative way in her debt, but in a positive way, like he just feels like he tied to her and owes her and thankful for her. I could see it being the other, that she abuses him, that she continues to make him feel guilt for everything. And she leverages that guilt to drive his action and to wake that dragon, metaphorical dragon, at her need. Right?
I like that.
To see.
Or option C, they start a little romance together.
Oh, please don't. I mean, maybe, but please don't.
How would that be to drive that wedge even further between Alicent and Rhaenyra?
Ugh. Yeah, gross. But I can see it. Yeah, I can see it. Ugh.
Speaking of romance, we could be starting to see a lot more Harwin Strong.
Yeah. Yep.
I actually wonder if they will make it completely obvious that Harwin and Rhaenyra are doing it, or if they'll make it kind of coy.
Felt like from the preview we saw, I don't know if you saw the preview, but from the preview we saw, it kind of felt like they're going to make it pretty obvious. There was a line from Alicent saying, having one child like this is a mistake. Having three is like a slap to the face. Or
Sure.
And then there was another line about a son dishonoring his father through his actions. So I think it was Lionel saying it, although I wasn't sure. It feels like it's going to be pretty obvious.
Yeah. Kind of like in the book, in Fire and Blood, they make it very clear that it's obvious, but they don't actually explicitly say it. Yeah. And I can almost see the showrunners having Harwin be more present. He's become her personal protector. He's always around. People are saying things like the quote that you bring up, but you never actually, see a sex scene or something like that.
It's possible. There are people in the fandom, I think, that don't actually believe that the strong children are Harwins. That they think it'd be more interesting if they weren't, and that it were just a story. I've never delved into kind of how they explain all that away, but I think there are people that believe that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's an interesting concept, especially in regards to what you said earlier about blood, and how much does that matter?
Yes. Daemon is going to end up with Lyanna, of course, temporarily.
Yeah.
But I think we kind of mentioned, I think the scene with he and Rhaenyra is meant to remind us that it's each other that they want.
It's temporary. Yeah.
They're going to be, I think it was K2 on Twitter.
They're little star-crossed lovers.
K2 a couple weeks ago on Twitter was just like, let Rhaenyra and Daemon fuck. Without them, you don't get Jon or Dany or anybody else, right? And she's right.
So let's just get to it, people.
So let's just get to it. It was funny. But I'm interested to see how fast that happens. I don't think it's going to be this season.
For Daemon and Rhaenyra?
Daemon and Rhaenyra stuff.
I don't think so either.
Be a season 2 thing.
Yeah, I don't think so either. It looks like we make quite a jump from now to next episode. Yeah. So I wonder, will we see Daemon and Lyanna married already and possibly with their twins?
Yeah.
I mean, if we've already got Rhaenyra having her kids, it's probably possible we'll see Daemon and Lyanna together.
Yeah. Yeah. If we're moving to episode 6 spoilers, well, I guess this doesn't really call it. This is a further spoiler. We're doing our best to keep spoilers out of our coverage, but auto spoiled the whole damn show for everyone. She will need to put your boys to the sword to maintain her claim.
Oh boy, here we go. Yep.
I mean, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy at this point. He's told Alicent that that's the case. Alicent now will make all sorts of moves to make sure that isn't the case, and
including
including killing her
Putting
own
kids to the sword.
Yes, and taking things and
Oh man.
sorts of things. Tyrion's prophecy mule was kicking everyone in the head.
Mm-hmm.
But Otto spoiled the whole series for everyone today. So part of me was like, oh, we shouldn't bother with worrying about spoilers anymore. Otto just gave the whole game away.
Oh boy. Thanks a lot, Otto.
Yeah.
So
you want to go to specific episode 6 things?
Well, I got a couple little things.
Yeah.
Back to Jason Lannister's bad joke. This is why men wage war. Also interesting that in this story, it's about 2 women and at the head of their respective factions in a war.
Yes. That's hilarious. I didn't think about that.
On the nose, Jason, even though you're an idiot. Orwell's poultices being turned away. We talked about that. In the book, Grandmaster Melos dies, and actually I wonder if we'll see that next episode perhaps. And it says under Orwell's care, the ailing King Viserys regained some of his former vigor. And so
I forgot about that.
in the scenes from next episode, we do see Viserys alive at least and functioning to some degree. And I wonder if that'll be because Orwell's taken over and he's not trying to actively kill the king.
If we look at the trajectory that Viserys has been on under Melos's care, you would have to assume that he would not survive whatever gap it is that we're going to get, 8 years, 10 years, whatever it is that we're getting. Viserys would not live through that. So your prediction makes sense.
The dance scene, I almost said this in the top of the episode, but it works better here. The dance was the beginning of the dance. So adding more gravitas to that scene. And then finally, here's what's gross, Scad.
Okay.
So if Alicent isn't already pregnant with Aemond in this episode, she might be already. And if Darion, the third son, fourth child of Viserys and Alicent, will appear in Fire and Blood, Alicent's got to have sex with that gross arm at least twice.
You don't have sex with an arm, Matt. Well, actually, that's not entirely true. Okay.
And that's all I have to say about
that's all I have to say about that. Yeah, I wondered. I think in the last episode, I predicted she would be pregnant with Aemond. In this one, doesn't seem to be the case. But you're right. That's definitely a thing that will have to happen. Maybe she'll do it after he regains some of that vigor you're talking about, and the arm is maybe a little bit healed. Let's hope for that.
Maybe she convinces him to put on like a sleeve or something. Just keep it out of sight. Do you think
predictions? Go ahead.
Yeah, we kind of started making some of the predictions already. Do you think Kristen will be? We assume he's still going to be around. Do you think he'll be a Lord Commander at this point? I wonder if this was the last time we see Harold Westerling, and not only is Kristen Cole still around, but he's Lord Commander too.
Feel like I made that prediction last episode. It makes more sense now with the time skip. That Westerling would have just died in the interim, and now we get Kristen as Lord Commander. Based on what we just saw, an interesting choice. Like, do you want an unhinged dude? Who's making the choice? Like, maybe this is evidence that Alicent is really calling the shots these days.
Right.
Viserys isn't really running the show. After this time jump, but having Kristen be the Lord Commander seems like an odd choice.
It does, unless you look at it like this. And now I'm putting my story forth as if it's already canon. Of if
they make an excuse for him, and
they make this big deal out of he actually protected Rhaenyra in that moment. He sussed out the assassin and made sure, who better to protect the queen now than this warrior of Kristen Cole, this man who is willing to do whatever it took to protect the royal family.
That could do it. I don't know if Viserys will believe that story.
No, but we all know how.
Well, I just mean if he's the one that appoints the Lord Commander. But actually, is that even how it works? Do they appoint each other? I don't know.
No,
No, the king does it.
King does it. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think Daemon will wed Lyanna. I think a fourth episode in a row. I think Lyanna is going to mount Vhagar. I'm calling it again.
I think we'll see Vhagar.
Gotta
Yep.
happen. Give it to
Yep.
the people. We want it. Give it to the people.
But then we also have Aemond coming in with, so
yeah, but he'll be a babe, right? He'll be.
think so.
Well, oh, that's a good point. Right. So this is where the timeline gets fucked, right? So in the next episode, Daemon has to wed Lyanna, probably, right? We're skipping ahead 10 years.
I think
They've got to have
married.
their own. You think they're already going to be married and have their kids, right?
I think so. Yeah.
So we're going to skip that wedding entirely.
I think so.
It's just going to have happened.
Yeah.
I wed Lyanna 7 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll have their twins. Lyanna could have mounted Vhagar then in that same time. We just skip it and we just have it.
But that would suck.
That would suck, but I think you're right. Aemond is going to, if they jump 10 years, Aemon's going to be like eight years old. He claims Vhagar at 12 or something. We got to squeeze Lyanna's death in there somewhere.
I don't know if we'll have the fight where he loses his eye in this next episode, or if that'll be a tuple, or if that'll be a tuple, 2 episodes away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
it'll
like
happen.
7 or 8.
Yeah. So they may squeeze Lyanna and Vhagar in this episode to then hold off on one more for Aemon to do it. But we got to get these things in, guys. We got to get these things in.
Got to get them all in.
Yeah. It says Rhaenyra mostly lives on Dragonstone. I wonder if we'll see that, or if they'll keep her just in King's Landing, just to be able to keep that tension between her and Alicent kind of constant.
It's a good question. I think she'll be on Dragonstone.
Think so?
I think so.
It said Rhaenyra would mostly stay on Dragonstone. Laenor would stay on Driftmark. But they would come together to appear at events and things like that.
Right.
So
it'll be interesting to see where the strong Targaryen conflict goes. The strong still kind of playing it coy, I guess, to get really Harwin's kids on the throne, I guess. But eventually they got to take more action, take a side, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
at least I think the show will do that more than the books did.
Right. It's interesting. Lionel kind of ends up in the position of Otto, of being the hand of the king and trying to set his kids up.
His own,
or not his kids, but
grandkids,
his progeny. Yeah.
One thing that the preview gave away is that Stepstones are back, baby.
Here we go.
Raicalio Rendoon.
That would be a cool little thing. Of course,
awesome.
I was like, I didn't think they would. I predicted that they would just eat that
the crowd theater.
But maybe they do. That's kind of where this goes.
They said something's happening there.
Right. They bring up the Stepstones. I wonder if we'll see Daemon and his stuff at the Vale. Although I kind of think they'll just gloss over it. In the Vale, in the book, Daemon goes to the Vale, and Lady Jane, who he mentions on the episode real quick, she rebuffs him and warns him that his presence in the Vale is unwelcome. Kind of banishes him forever from there.
I think you could see that, but it feels like if we're gonna miss the wedding and we're gonna miss the mounting of Vhagar and everything, feels like we'll just miss that too. And we'll have to cover the exposition.
Right.
It'll be really interesting. I mean, they're gonna almost have to do just like they did the very first episode. They're almost gonna have to do like a little quick lore dump of what happened in these 10 years or 8 years or whatever it is, right?
It'll be real interesting to see
how they do that and who gives it and all that.
It'll be interesting to maybe see that resentment between the Velaryon and Targaryen boys, or strong boys, I should say, or shouldn't say.
It's too bad we don't get to see the young actors build toward that. That would be really cool to see.
It would be really cool.
But
I get it.
Yeah.
But okay.
Yeah.
I think those are my thoughts.
Those are my thoughts too. I think I'm good.
Okay.
Shall we sign off?
Yep. We should.
We should.
Um, this
I can
is
go if you want me to go first.
this is Matt signing off, saying, when you're at a Westerosi wedding, follow the lead of Lyman Beesbury and Grandmaster Mellos, and at the first sign of trouble, just GTFO.
This is Gab signing off and saying that if you're in charge of a giant spectacle of an event, so much so that there are going to be 7 days of feasting and jousting and probably food vendors, try to keep in mind those that have government contracts with you to sell little roast chickens or churros during the tourney, because they bought all the chickens already. I was going to make their year, and now it's canceled and their life is ruined. You moving that wedding up to tonight ruined like dozens of people's lives. I just want that to be remembered. That's all.
Thanks a lot for that,
Maybe,
Scad.
maybe find a different reason to still have a tourney. That's all I'm saying.
Can't we just keep the tourney at least?
Can't we just Can't we just
We moved up the wedding, but the tourney's ready to go.
Let them all eat the chicken?
Yeah.
The little churros?
Let the guys joust. They're here. Good point.
Anyway, that's it.
Great point, as usual. All right. Good night, Khalasar.